Okay, I'm going to start showing my desktop too. That might be kind of useful. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Very nice to see everybody this fine afternoon, evening, morning. I know we have about 10,000 time zones in here. So there we go. All right. Hopefully the screen is coming through good for everybody now-ish. Takes just a moment. There we go. Great to have you all with us. This is our free weekly webinar where we talk about all the things that I'm looking for going into the week. Now remember, oftentimes on this webinar I talk a lot about targets and setups, and sometimes it's just targets and we need to wait for the setup to happen, and that can happen tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. It can happen later on in the week, and sometimes I don't know exactly what that setup is going to be. I just know what the target is and the general trend. But very specifically the target, and targets are very important because that means we know which way the market's going. We just have to have the right setup to get there. So because of that, it would be in everyone's very best interest to at least get a 5-day free trial to the trading group and see how we do these. I do these webinars every day for group members. On Monday, everybody's welcome and they're free, and you can come in and see what I'm looking at kind of in a longer term perspective. But the execution of these setups really happens throughout the week and during these afternoon sessions as I update things daily. So we'd love to have you join us. You can go to Day Traders FX. You can click on Join Us. It's going to take you to this little page right here. And this will get you set up on a 5-day free trial. And hopefully you'll decide to stick around with us for a little while. But this will give you access to the chat room. We are on and live every day in the morning and in the afternoon, so we'd love to have you. Okay, let's have a little look at what we have as far as news goes this week. We have quite a bit of news, starting with today. In Australia, we'll have the interest rate announcement, and that's going to be in about 3.5 hours, give or take. So there's a little while to go, but that's a pretty big deal for Australia. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. I'm not necessarily going to be live in the chat, but I'll be trying to watch things as best I can and keeping an eye on all of that. We'll talk about some of the Aussie pairs and some of the setups that I'm interested in there, but keep in mind that in the next few hours, we have that Aussie interest rate announcements. I will be taking 0 Aussie trades before that news is released. So we want to make sure that news comes out first, and then we try to get into stuff later on. Okay, Tuesday, we have a little bit of news on Tuesday. Nothing too huge. Construction news for the UK and employment numbers for New Zealand. So that can always get the New Zealand dollar, New Zealand yen, all those pairs. Aussie, New Zealand pairs moving. Wednesday, we've got the good old ADP for the U.S., which means we have non-farm payroll this week, ISM, have a couple of bank holidays, and we have retail sales and trade balance for Australia. So Wednesday is a pretty big day. Thursday, we've got more interest rate announcements from the UK and European Central Bank, the Eurozone. So Thursday is going to be a big day. And then Friday, of course, we have Canadian employment numbers and U.S. employment numbers. So we've got a pretty big week as far as news goes, so just kind of be ready for all of that. Okay, guys, quick little look at the euro dollar here. I've been talking about the euro quite a bit and been, discussing some of the details and just overall saying that I would rather be short euro than anything, but so on and so forth. So the euro made a nice little drop end of last week, and it's kind of solidifying down here. We had a low of about 134. About 134.75 or so is where the euro made its low. So that being the case, what are we going to have to trade and work with here? You can see on the daily chart the euro has basically hit the 200 moving average. The 200 moving average is just about that. Remember, I've been talking about number 13500 as a target, and then 134.50. Now the 200 moving average has come up a little bit, but I think 134.50 is still a pretty easy target for the euro, so let's keep an eye on that. But we are, see how the euro on this daily chart has just been bouncing on this 200 moving average. If we zoom out a little bit, we can see that it's really been kind of playing with that level and having a heck of a time. But I'm still bearish euro, so I'm going to be looking for some opportunities. We don't have any, really major technical setups still. I've talked about this a couple of times as well. If we look at this daily chart and really bring it out and go to the kind of the last few swing points here and so on, you can see that the euro is finally just breaking out of that, and you can see that we have you know, this pretty major wedge in the works here, rising wedge. So if that's the case right there, definitely, which it is, definitely we're going to have some pretty big support at this 200 moving average, which is just a little bit above 134.50. So it's like, again, we bottomed out about 134.75. That 200 moving average is right there. This is going to bounce up. Remember, I'm not going to be looking for any longs here. This could make a run, and if it does something really major and really significant, then I'll start considering some buy entries. But what I'm really going to watch for here is see if this can bounce off the 200 moving average like it's doing already, come up here and take out some of these missed pivots. We have a couple of missed daily, weekly, monthly pivots and so on up here around 135.60 and 135.80 and some of that stuff. So we've got a few pivot points up there that could use a little touch. So I'm going to look for that, but I'm going to also look for on this daily chart to make sure that the euro can stay below this big trend line that we've just broken out of. If it stays below that, if it just pops up and touches some of those and then still closes below this big ascending trend line, which would put that around 135, 60, 70 area, as long as it stays below that, then I'm going to absolutely be looking for opportunities to continue to short this. Remember, we do have, we don't have any super major missed pivots down here, but we have quite a few daily pivot points that go back all the way into September, and they're quite a ways down here, 131.50, 132.90, this more recent one, 134.50 area here. So I'm looking for these targets to still get hit, but the key that we want to see is that it stays below this trend line that we've just broken out of, and that could be challenging because of our bounce off the 200 moving average. But we came really close to that daily pivot. I think we're going to come up and maybe just touch some of these upper pivot points and then start heading back down for an overall target of about 133.00 and ultimately 131.50. The euro dollar has like a disease where it has to stay at 131.50. I don't know what it is, but it just hits that level. If you look back at like a monthly chart and just go back as far as your chart will let you go, you'll see that the euro just bounces around. Obviously, a long time ago, it was quite a bit cheaper than it is, but over the last few years, it's just been bouncing around 131.50. It loves to hit that level. And we have a missed daily pivot at 131.50. We have a huge daily wedge that has broken out, and I think we're going to have a nice little run down there. So again, we want to see this thing basically stay below about 136.00, and then we'll be looking for shorts and opportunities to sell, targeting 133.00 and 131.50. We've got some big targets in the works, and I'm pretty excited about that. So there will be more updates on that coming, but that's generally what I'm going to be looking for on the euro dollar. Okay, on the pound dollar here, I had to reset a few things on my charts, but you guys can see in the notes we had a killer pound dollar movement and things are still running. So we had a sell at the break of 164.70 on pound dollar. I'm just reading through the notes here, targeting 162.00, 160.50. So I don't have a re-entry necessarily right this moment for the pound dollar, but remember, for those that are in the group, on Thursday we talked about this little guy right here and how we had kind of an ugly breaking the rules bear flag, and this thing came down and hopped around, and I wanted to get us below this little level right there, which was 164.70. That was that little level right there. We broke it, and it did hop around a little bit, and then it's made some very significant runs, and is currently up about 100 and, you know, depending on what your entry was, 160 to 170 pips. So we're in some serious profit for that. But remember, we're targeting on the pound dollar 162.00 and 160.50. Now, why in the world are we doing that? Number one, we had a big breakout of this rising wedge. I love these rising wedges. They're so amazing. And so we've broken out of that, and it's making a nice little run. And we have a missed daily and monthly pivot down here at about 162.00. 161.90 and 162.00. So I'm absolutely still targeting those. We've locked in profit on our trades, and we're looking to get another at least 100 pips out of this movement. it's going to be an amazing profit target. We're going to make so much money on this trade, it's going to be ridiculous. So we're in short from the break of 164.70, and we're targeting 16200. So we should make a nice 270 pips on this trade. If anybody's not in this yet, I don't necessarily know what to tell you, except for watch, the 4-hour and daily charts, and watch for this to come back up and test this ascending trend line that it broke out of. That's pretty common. We can see that happen quite a bit, so keep an eye on that. But other than that, I don't have a real specific entry that I'm looking for right this moment on pound dollar, because we're already in it. We're already in a whole bunch of profit, and we're going to hold on to this thing down to that 16200. So we're still hanging on to 16200. And I still, as I said before, I still think 160.50 is going to get hit a bit sooner than later as well. 160.50. So let's hang on to this thing. We've got some good targets coming up, and I think we're going to hit it. 160.50 is coming. 16200 will be a little bit sooner than later. So let's be pretty ready for that kind of business. Yeah, Marion, it is kind of giving a little bit of a bear flag here on the 1-hour chart. It's working on that. It's definitely working on that. So that'll be something worth keeping an eye on. Pretty small scale. So keep an eye on that. There may be entry potential there, but for the moment we're just kind of holding on to this thing, and we may get some play out on that bear flag. But still, target is 162.50, or excuse me, 16200 at least. That's the minimum target. 160.50 is our next target. So this is a good time to, hold on to the trade. We'll take some profit at 16200, and then we'll, let maybe half the position ride to 160.50. Okay. All right. Yeah, like I said, Shirley, there's not much of a re-entry point since we're just sitting in the trade still. So I'll update. You're in the group, so just join us, and I'll update daily as we get opportunities to re-enter that pound dollar short. Okay, the Aussie dollar has been all over the map. This thing is just everywhere. The 1-hour chart, you can see the 4-hour chart's kind of crazy. Last week had some movement. Excuse me, the week before had some movement, a spike up and down. Last week was just super choppy. This week it's been kind of choppy, and you can see we're kind of getting this little topping out here right around 88.25 area. Remember that the Aussie dollar is pretty oversold. It's getting into some pretty crazy areas as far as where where these weekly pivots and so on are, and where things are starting to get a little overrun. So we got to keep an eye on that. On the very large long-term scale, I'm still watching this business here. This is a big trend line from the high, touching the high of January, coming all the way down here. So to get above this trend line, we're probably going to have to get above, I think if we break this high right here, that's going to start giving us some pretty good traction above the trend line. So getting above about 88.25, 88.30 might be a good spot to start going long Aussie dollar. I'm still targeting 92.30 to 92.50 area if we get a break, so I'm still looking for that, but we don't have an entry yet. We haven't been trading the Aussie dollar too much because it's been a little crazy and a little tough to trade. But the other thing that I'm looking at, if we kind of watch this here, you can see that there's a pretty intense falling wedge. And falling wedges are big reversal patterns, and so far it seems to be holding that low of January, which is about 86.50, 60 area. So below that area, I would be short. Below 86.50, I would be short Aussie dollar. But if that tends to hold, then we're still going to be looking for an opportunity. We talked about this quite a bit last week. If we come down and get a double bottom there at that 86.50, 60 area, it tests and it bounces, then let's be looking to buy that dip at 86.50, 60 area. Let's buy that dip and have some pretty tight stops down here. And at that point, we'll be targeting things such as monthly pivot up here at 88.30 and daily pivots at 89.20 and 89.90. So those are going to be our targets if we get a double bottom on the Aussie dollar. It hits and bounces, and we get into that bounce, and we put some stops below this, then we're going to be targeting 88.30, 89.20, 89.90. If it doesn't hit that, then let's specifically watch this little high that has happened all week last week, and we pushed just a little bit above that. Let's look on the 4 hour and even on the daily charts, but specifically on the 4 hour chart, let's look for an open above that 88.30 area. Let's see if we can get an open above that and start targeting some of these upper levels and upper areas. So just watch for an open above that area. And let's see if we can trade this thing up into trend lines, 200 moving averages, missed pivot points, all of that stuff. So for the moment, double bottom 86.50 or a 4 hour or daily candle opening above 88, 25, 30 area for a trade targeting that 89.20 and 89.90 area. So I will again post all the notes on this, let you guys know, but watch and rewatch the recording and make sure that you're pretty clear on everything, because we're going to have some good entries coming up and it's going to be pretty fantastic. Not doing too terribly much on this Aussie yen for the moment. It looks like we might be forming a little bit of a bear flag on this chart, but remember we have a lot of Aussie news coming out, so that's going to affect these Aussie pairs quite a bit. So keep an eye on that. Our Euro yen trade went ridiculous. I don't really have an entry for the Euro yen right now, but the Euro yen, we sold the break of 139.05. 139.05, and you can see I'm just clicking on our notes here. 139.05 was our sell entry, targeting 138.30 and 138.00. So we have to go back here just a little bit, but 139.05 was our entry. And it was, we had a little bit of an ugly bear flag here that I was looking at. And so it was a little intense, but we did get an entry, and it was fantastic, and really made a nice little move here. And you can see that our target of 138.30 was easily met. That's right there. And then 138.00 was very easily met as well. So that's all right there. So we were able to grab a very nice little profit on that trade. Good for at least 100 pips, and it has just continued going from there. The thing I'm still looking for is I'm still looking for the Euro yen to hit the 200 moving average. It's way overbought still. It's finally recovering and so on. I'm out of the trade, and again, I don't have a super specific entry on this one just yet. I'm going to see if this can pull back a little bit, give us some opportunities to trade down to 136.00, which is going to be a pretty easy target, I think, for this Euro yen, and our 200 moving average is down here at about 135.00. So 136.00 and 135.00 should be hit pretty easily. One is 180 pips away, and one is about 80 pips away. And I think those are both going to be pretty good targets, but again, I don't have much of a setup on that one just yet. So just kind of keep that in mind, but know that I'm definitely targeting a lower area, at least another 100 pips down on this Euro yen. Looking for that to get hit, but we'll probably need a little bit of recovery. Let's be careful. Let's make sure we're watching all these details. We could have the very early stages of a little 1 hour head and shoulders pattern. There could be a shoulder there and a head here, and we could see that kind of pop back up. So keep an eye on that. If that forms, then that changes things as well. But again, these are things I'm looking for going into the week. I will update these every day in our live sessions. So take it with a grain of salt. And if you want to get the most updated information, definitely join us this week as we do daily wrap-up sessions every day. So holding pattern on that one. Pound yen gave us a really nice move as well. That thing has moved down. Pound yen has still not touched the 200 moving average. There was tons of pips and tons of profit in there, but I'm still looking for this one to get potentially as low as 163.00 and even down to 160. But again, we need to wait on entries here. So yen pairs paid us out handsomely going into the weekend. We've taken our profit, and now we're just waiting for those entries to kind of continue to play out. Quick little update. This is the dollar CAD. Now remember, this one is also still in play from the weekend. We sold the break of 111.45, or excuse me, our entry is just 111.45 on the dollar CAD for a sell. Our stops were at 11200, and our profit target is 109.50. Now we've locked in profit on this one, and I think we're going to be able to hold on to this and hopefully get us down just a little bit more. Here was where we got in. This is 111.50 right here, and so we got in just 5 pips below that, so it took a little bit of time. It took the next candle getting us in. We've bounced along this 200 moving average, but remember, a couple of things that I'm looking for is we have a nice monthly pivot down here that has started. And this is looking great, 109.80, and we've got some nice daily targets down here. So remember, on the dollar CAD, I'm targeting 109.50. We've got some pretty good things in the works down here. We've got some daily and weekly pivots at around 108.20 and so on. So I'm just looking to get us a little bit into range with a 200 moving average and some of these missed pivots. But I don't even want to get all the way there. I just want to get down to 109.50, which would be just about 200 pips on the dollar CAD. So we're hanging in here. We're holding on to it. Sure, Dean, will do. Yep, yeah, I'll give you that link for sure. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're holding on this dollar CAD. As far as anybody that's not in yet, let's keep an eye on this. Ralph, yeah, so we're in this trade. We're up about 40 pips or so. We've locked in profit. Something that we're going to watch for pretty closely here is we've started to make kind of this type of a deal. And so we're going to keep an eye on this trend line. If this thing comes up and takes us out at break even or +1, so be it. It happens. But if it does break this level, I'm going to be looking once again for another opportunity to short against the high. So currently it's only 120 pips from the high, from this high point right here. So if it breaks this little descending trend line, I'll be looking once again around 111.50. And even 111.75 to short against that high. But I want to make sure that we don't get an inverted head and shoulders pattern or something going on there. So again, I'm going to have to update on this one. I'm still holding on to my target of 109.50, but I need to see how this plays out a little bit going into the week. So I don't have that specific entry just yet, but I am still looking for 109.50. 109.50. Okay, I'm just plowing through these guys, so hopefully I'm not going too fast for anybody. This is all recorded and it will be sent out to everybody, and you can look at this and record and watch it and rewatch it and pause it and do all that stuff, and that'll be great. Euro Aussie is still the trade that I love so much. Remember, Euro Aussie, I had to reset some of my charts here, so my trend lines are gone. Euro Aussie just came down and tested the heck out of this trend line right here. This is a big daily trend line that goes about 3 months back. It tested that right there. Big hammer, bounced off it pretty hard, and now it's headed. Now it's headed back up and doing this kind of business. Hold on here. I don't know why those keep popping up, but we still have a very nice rising wedge, which is a reversal pattern here, and this is really hopping up and down and kind of making its big move, so we still need to wait for that breakout. Now remember, this could be the very early stages of a huge head and shoulders pattern, which I'm kind of expecting. I'm like mostly expecting that. So we could have a big, this double top could be our big left shoulder, this could be the head, and it might just chop around and dip down and make another little high right here as it gets out of this rising wedge and turn into a big head and shoulders pattern. So that's a super major possibility, and I'm going to be watching for that. But we're going to get in on the rising wedge before the head and shoulders pattern potentially forms, and we're going to trade the heck out of that thing. So number one, I wouldn't hate to see this thing come up and just take out that weekly pivot from last week, which is missed. kind of hit some of that. Remember, we're just kind of coming on this stuff. But we want to see an open. 4-hour chart should be sufficient to see an open below about 153.30. So it's a little ways up here. So 153.30 would be an area for this to open below to start shorting down into 150. So there's still 300 pips. I'm not super worried about are we going to miss out on all these pips and all this stuff. But let's keep an eye on this. We do have a little bit of a wedge triangle kind of forming here, so we want to make sure that this doesn't get too much above 15500. If this gets way above 15500, we could be headed into a double top, we could be headed into new highs, we could be headed into a whole bunch of stuff. So we're going to be keeping an eye on this 155 area. That's a weekly pivot from last week. If we go up and hit that and kind of stay below this trend line, we could be looking to short against 15500 with stops above that. But again, I don't know what's going to happen. I need to watch it and see. Otherwise, I'm going to be looking to get in with an open on the 4-hour chart below 153.30. 153.30 is what I'll be looking for. So I'm still very much holding on to 150 as a big target on Euro Aussie, and I think we're going to get it. By think, I'm very super confident we're going to get it. So 150 is still the big target, but we've got to watch 15500, make sure we stay below that. And if we just can't find a good enough entry, then we'll be getting in at an open below 153.30, targeting 150. So again, nice 300 pip trade there. Should be no problemo. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm not really looking at any other pairs right now. We have lots of good opportunities coming up, and lots of good things in the works. So let's see. We have some lots of questions. Yeah, I'll get to those questions in just 2 seconds. We'll take care of that. Let's see. Oh, and we'll look at gold real quick here. Gold 4-hour chart forming a bull flag. Yeah, gold's looking pretty decent. Yeah, gold will be worth watching. There's definitely a bull flag in the works there. So yeah, absolutely. We did have a bear flag trade on gold that broke out, gave us a little move, and double bottomed and then shot up. So if anyone traded that, hopefully you had time to lock in. If you didn't, then it went crazy. Gold sure went nuts. But yeah, let's watch gold. Now, on this kind of a bull flag right here, we want to just kind of see it bounce around so that we can draw a better trend line. I don't like that trend line a bunch, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing hop up just a little bit and then come back down. So I'm not going to try to draw in the bear flag, or excuse me, the bull flag on gold for another several hours. I'm going to see what it does, see how it plays out, and draw it in another several hours. That's a pretty steep trend line, so it's one thing we just want to kind of keep an eye on. Okay, guys, let me get to your questions. I'm going to start this recording right now, and then I'll answer a few questions.